Good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to Live Talk, The Connection, a platform where we discuss issues affecting young people. We are coming to you from Studio 7 at the Voice of America in Washington this Tuesday, July the 26th, 2022. I am Tungamili Nkomo. Tonight, we are talking about the reintroduction of the National Youth Service, which is notorious for churning out violent pro-ZANU-PF militias, derisively known as Green Bombers. The National Association of Youth Organizations last week appealed to Parliament to block the program, fearing the ruling ZANU-PF is planning to use graduates to unleash violence in next year's general elections. The National Youth Service was introduced in the year 2000 by then Youth Minister GOVT, saying it was meant to transform and empower youths for national building through life skills training and leadership development. The Youth Brigade quickly turned into a nightmare for the opposition MDC leader Morgan Tsvangirai, whose supporters were constantly attacked and allegedly killed by the militias, who supported then-President Robert Mugabe. To date, their mere mention evokes emotions from victims or those old enough to have seen them at work. And that is why there is apprehension about the reintroduction of the National Youth Program, especially ahead of the 2023 elections. Plus, we will also be looking at the national strike by workers over poor salaries planned for tomorrow and Thursday. Litshona njani Zulu kandaba siyahlangana kuhlelo lwabasakhulayo olwe The Connection. Namuhla sikhangela udaba lokusungulwa njalo kohlelo lokulolonga abasakhulayo abadume ngodlakela uhlelo lwe-National Youth Service. Eminyakeni edluleyo lolu hlelo belulolonga abasakhulayo be-ZANU-PF bethi besuka lapho sibone sebesetshenziswa ukuchaya abamabandla aphikisayo ikakhulu abe-MDC. Lokhu kwenzeke kakhulu ngesikhathi kusabusa uMongameli Robert Mugabe njalo iMDC isakhokhelwa ngumnumzana Morgan Tsvangirai. Inhlanganiso zabasakhulayo sezicele iParliamente ukuthi imise lolu hlelo ngoba zithi iZANU-PF isizama ukulolonga abatsha abazachaya abantu kukhetho oluzayo. Sizaxoxa njalo ngohlelo lokukhalala umsebenzi phezu kweholo kusasa. Kwaziwa ivatereri nasi muchirongwa cheve chidiki The Connection tiri kutaura nekuparurwa zvakare kwechirongwa cheNational Youth Service. Icho chinozikanwa nevanopikisa sechirongwa chekudzidzisa vechidiki veZANU-PF kuita zvemhirizhonga. Chirongwa ichi chinozikanwa neveruzhinji nezita rekuti ma-Green Bomber, avo vanova magraduates echirongwa ichi. Chirongwa ichi chakaparurwa muna 2000 namushakabvu vaBhodagezi avo vaiva gurukota rezvevechidiki vachiti chinangwa chaiva chekudzidzisa vechidiki ava nhoroondo yenyika. Asi vechidiki ava vakanga vava kushandiswa neZANU-PF kurova vemapato anopikisa zvikuru sei bato reMDC iro raitungamirirwa nemushakabvu waMorgan Tsvangirai. Tichataura zvakare nenyaya yekuramwa mabasa kuchaitika mangwana uye nemusi weChina. And we start our show tonight in Harare, where VOA's Studio 7 reporter Godwin Mangudla spoke to Stephen Sarkozy Chuma of the opposition Triple C. Vachuma vanoti chirongwa cheNational Youth Service hachifanirwi kuitwa zvachose.
Nhau yekudzoswa kweurongo hweNational Youth Service haisi nhau nyuwani, haisi nhau itsva. Takambozviona kumashure kwakamboita urongo uhu kunana 2008 vanhu vakatambura nokurohwa vabereki vachipisirwa dzimba dzavo, uyezve tochiona kuti pakati by elections this year tine mamembers edu akafa nekuda kweviolence yagara iriko yemamilitias groups eZANU-PF. So apa zvakungoita ZANU-PF navamunangagwa vanoda kungo-officialize, vanoda kungo-regularize nyaya yetsagari, vanoda kuregularize nyaya yemamilitia groups. Tinozviziva kuti nyaya yeNational Youth Service magrupu avo avanoda kugadzirira sarudzo ra2023 kuti kana vadyiwa sezvatotarisira kuti vachadyiwa zvine mutsindo vachada kufamba vachikidzira vanhu vachirova vanhu. Saka nekuti ZANU-PF inobelieve munyaya dzeviolence havasi ivo vatingati the rightful people kuti valide urongwa hweNational Youth Service. Inhau inoda vanhu vane maoko akachena, inhau inoda government iri responsible. Iyi government yatinayo nokuti inouraya, inopfura vanhu mumastreets takaona muna August 2018 haikwanisi kulida chirongwa cheNational Youth Service.
Saka chii chingaitwa kuti chirongwa ichi chinge chiitwa zvakajeka uye isingaitwe zvematongerwo enyika kana zvekushandiswa mune zvemhirishonga?
Chirongwa ichi chinofanira kuitwa nema-independent organizations ekuti kana vanhu vakagara pasi vakawirirana vochuza vanhu vanofanira kulida chirongwa ichocho, vatoziva kuti vanhu ava very credible. Hatigoni kutora munhu ane mbiri yegukura hundi, hatigoni kutora munhu ane mbiri yemakavhotera papi operation, hatigoni kutora munhu ane mbiri yekupfura vanhu musi wa1 August, hatigoni kutora munhu ane mbiri yekuuraya macivilians pamaby elections kukwekwe mune mwiwe. Toti chilida process iyoyo, katoti political party yakadaro inotaura kuti opposition inda vanofanira kutswanyiwa ngaichilida process yakadaro. Iyi process yadi vanhu vanoda zvimhirizhonga.
Tiri kuona paurongwa hwakaparwa nehurumende chirongwa ichi chinonzi chichange chiri compulsory. Tiri kuona hamusi kufara nacho, saka muchaita sei kana chikaimplementwa?
Ndo patiri kutaura kuti ZANU-PF haisi kunzwisisa kuti nyaya yeYouth Service purpose yayo ndeyei. Youth Service inofanira kunge ichiita kuti vechidiki vanzwe kuda nyika yavo yatingati pachirungu patriotism. Zvino patriotism ilove haimanikidzigwi vanhu, rudo runoitika naturally. Kana hurumende yakanaka ichiita zvido zvevanhu, vanhu vanongoenda vega vonojoina, uye kana vechidiki vakaona zvishiwa chirongwa chacho chakanaka chiri kuitwa zvakanaka chisingamanikidzigwi vanhu vanoenda vega. The moment yamumanikidzira vanhu, it means there's a hidden motive, pane hidden agenda inenge ida kuitwa izvozvo.
Stephen Sarkozy Chuma ndivo vakafanira kubata chigaro chemutungamiriri wevechidiki muTriple C, vanga vachitaura naGodwin Mangudla weStudio 7. Tataura zvakare navataurai Kandishaya avo vanova mutevedzeri wemurongi wemisangano yevechidiki muZANU-PF.
Pachekutanga vanhu vanofanira kunzwisisa chinonzi National Youth Service zvinorevei. Icho chirungu pachezvacho chinongoreva kuti mwana wechidiki wese anotarisirwa uye kukurudzirwa kuti ashandire nyika yake. Saka ichi chirongwa chamunoenda vanhu kunodzidziswa kushandira nyika yako kuti chinonzi kuzvipira chii, chichitarisa nhoroondo yenyika ino inotaurwa mubumbiro remutemo kuti kune vanasikana nevanakomana vechidiki vakati vaona kuti nyika yedu tagarwa matunduru nemapambepfumi vakati taakuenda kunosunungura nyika. Ikoko ndicho chinonzi National Youth Service. Saka apa vechidiki vedu vakuenda kunodzidziswa kuti iwe uri mwana mutema, uri mwana wemuZimbabwe, chinonzi Zimbabwe chii, inochengetwa sei, unofanira kuishandira sei.
Saka ndezvipi zvimwe zvamunoda kuti zvinge zviri muchirongwa ichi?
Chirongwa ichi hachifaniri kuendwa neanoda, chinofanira kuendwa nemunhu wese. Takatarisa nyika dzakaita sana China, nyika dzakaita sana America, zvinorema kuti uwane basa kana usina kupfuura nekudanho rekudzidziswa pamusoro penyika yako, rekuedzwa, kutraiwa, kuiswa in the test of time kuti unokwanisa here kumirira nyika yako kana zvaoma. Saka chekutanga ndechekuti hurumende ngaiti mwana wese kubvira ari kulevel yeprimary ngavaende kuNational Youth Service.
Ko munoti chine mashoko evamwe kuti havasi kufara nenyaya yekuti pakambomiswa chirongwa ichi muna 2007 chinenge chakuitiswa zvematongerwo enyika chichishandiswa nevanhu vebato renyu reZANU-PF?
Ndo zvinoita zvipomerwa. Kana paine zvipomerwa zvanga zviripo muna 2007 ezvinoti hamuna 2022, zvizhinji kwazvo zvakaitwa nana triple C, zvakaitwa nana MDC. Tinotori nenhoroondo yekuti MDC yaisabhadhara vashandi, asi izvezvi mukaenda kuMDC kune vashandi. Tine nhoroondo yekuti triple C yakatanga kurwa maelections kubva kuma1999 asi nanhasi vari kungokwikwidzwa. Saka hatigoni kuti tarise kuti kumashure uko zvakambomiswa sei. Aiwa, tinoramba tichienderera mberi. Ndosaka muchiona tine nyaya dze-re-engagement and engagement yaPresident ED Mnangagwa. Inongoreva kuti kana paine zvinhu zvisina kufamba zvakanaka kare, ezvino zvaakudzoka zvifambisika zvakanaka. Inongoreva kuti kana paine pakapotseka paakutwasanurwa, asi hatingagone kuti titi zvaishandiswa zvematongerwo enyika, nekuti chinoitika kana munhu abva kuNational Youth Service anenge akunzwisisa chinonzi nyika yake, anenge akugona kupa nyika yake rudo. Izvozvo chete kana wazviita, varungu vanotanga kuti wapanduka, varungu vanotanga kutaura kuti ZANU-PF. Sei zvichidaro? Nekuti ZANU-PF chete ndiro bato rine vanhu vakazvipira kushandira nyika yeZimbabwe. Saka zvinoita sekuti munhu abva kuNational Youth Service ukazomuti uchisarudza bato rekuenda, haagoni kusarudza bato rine mapambepfumi, anondosarudza bato rinotonga, bato reZANU-PF rine zvido zvevanhu.
Saka lastly, message yenyu kune vechidiki kubato renyu?
Kune vechidiki ndinoti shoko riya rinoti kudza baba wako namai vako kuti mazuva akawedzere panyika. Rinorevazve kuti unofanira kukudza nyika yako nekuida.
Avo vanga vari vataurai kandishaya nhengo yeZANU-PF vachitaura naGodwin Mangudla weStudio 7 vari muHarare. And now to the second largest city, kwaBulawayo. Ezra Chisasibanda uxoxele umqoqi wenhlelo zabatsha kubandla le-Triple C, umnumzana Kelvin Moyo.
Ya, indaba ye-youth service ke sayizwa lapha ibhoda nje kuma-social media la live abanye bethu omakhelwane sayabonani bagijimela into zangikhona, but engakutsho nje ukuthi siyawazi ukuthi youth service vele ngiyani. Towards election iZANU-PF every 5 years iyazama ukudinga amaqhinga ukuthi njani ifake ifiye ebantwini ukuze abantu bengakwanisi ukuvota kahle. So thina njenge-CCC siyananzelela ukuthi njengabontanga kulabanye ontanga abafuna ukusetshenziswa ngesikhathi lesama-election ukuyahlukumeza abantu emakhaya, ukuhlukumeza abantu khona lapha koBulawayo emadorobheni, sibakhangele.
Wena-ke bathi bona laba babekhona babanceda lokuthi bathole-ke ulwazi lokuthi basebenze imisebenzi etshiyeneyo, kambe ngaba liqiniso yini lo?
Amanga lawa, inganekwane leyi. Lokhu ngikuthatha from background emuva lapho ukuthi okwenzakeleni. Amadoda la akavusa indaba ze-National Youth Service. Abanye bangikhona ababegijima i-National Youth Service abasebenzi lakathesi bahlezi. Abanye bangikhona bayahlanya ngoba babehamba bebulala abantu bechitha izigazi. So konke lokhuyana njani sikukhangele. Mina ngakutsho nje kubontanga ukuthi bengaphatheki uhlelo lolu ngoba nje akusikho, it's not the best alternative for ukuswelakala kwemisebenzi. Kade ontanga bagcwele bana babulawa zinjengo le ama-red beret la amakota la amancane, babulawa into ze-crime, babulawa into eziningi just because of ukuswelakala kwe-leadership elizwe. 40+ years okhe sizama okhe sikhuluma ama-youth service akuncedi lokho.
Siyabonga-ke, so uyakhuthaza ontanga ukuthi bangangeni lapha?
Bengaphatheke emadlwaleni la.
Kelvin Moyo ubona ngokuqoqwa kwenhlelo zabatsha ku-Triple C koBulawayo. Ezra also spoke to Archibald Chiponda, ZANU-PF Bulawayo provincial spokesperson, who says the National Youth Service is a noble idea.
No, I think it's a positive move. For me, anything that instills virtues such as discipline, hard work into youth it's a positive thing. A lot of people they look at the National Youth Service and they think that the National Youth Service is something maybe unique to Zimbabwe. It's actually not unique to Zimbabwe. If you look, there's a lot of countries, European countries, we're talking Spain, we're talking Germany, that have got similar programs. These are just programs that try and inculcate a sense of patriotism and a sense of duty to citizens while they're still at a young age. Because what you would hope is if these things are instilled in people when they're at a young age, they then grow into adults who carry these virtues of hard work and patriotism on into later life. It really helps build a nation. It's a good thing. I really believe it's a good thing.
What happens after the training? Normally, where are they deployed? Do they get the jobs? Or do they get employment somewhere? They are attached to various government departments. What happened to them?
No, yeah, I mean, this would be a pool. It creates a pool of labor, which you know is patriotic, and a pool of labor which you know is discipline. So it can end up becoming a very great source of labor for government and even for the economy at large. What you'll find is a lot of people who are ex-graduates of National Youth Service, they actually become sought out individuals, even in the private sector, because the person in the company will be knowing that the person I'm employing has got such virtues inside them. So they can also end up being quite sought after even in the private sector as well as the government sector.
As a youth, as a young one as well, do you encourage other youth to join?
No, definitely. It's an amazing experience. I know many individuals personally who have been through it, and they are better off for it. Believe me, I would encourage all youths to take up this opportunity that they're being given to go and train and gain skills and better themselves in life.
That was ZANU-PF Bulawayo provincial spokesperson Archibald Chiponda speaking with Studio 7's Ezra Chisaspanda. And now for perspective, we are joined by Platform for Youth and Community Development Director, Mr. CLARIS MADHUKU. Mr. MADHUKU, good evening and welcome to The Connection.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to be part of this program.
There is a sharp division here, Mr. Madube, between ZANU-PF on the one hand and the opposition on the other, together with human rights organizations over the reintroduction of the National Youth Service. ZANU-PF says a good move, but the opposition says this it means violence in the 2023 elections. What say you? Where do you stand as civic society groups?
Okay, thank you very much. It is quite an interesting discussion. In fact, when we comment about the National Youth Service in Zimbabwe, it must be a commentary. We know what has happened before. So when we comment, we can't comment it from no history. The history of the National Youth Service from 2000, when it was introduced by Boda Gezi and the Minister for Gender, Youth and Employment, and also what happened, the trail of destruction that has been caused by the National Youth Service is what people remember. So when we discuss about the National Youth Service, we cannot take away that history. But in effect, it needs to be understood by our listeners that the idea behind the National Youth Service is noble, because it is where you are trying to inject or inculcate values of loving one's country, values of patriotism, because more often young people, as they grow up, they need to be given values for their country, values for the history of their country, of which those values are acceptable. Those values are important in any society, in any community. Just like in a family, when you grow up, you need the young people to know the values of that family. If the family goes to church, they may inculcate those values. If the family wants their children to know who is their aunt, who is their uncle, and so forth. But what has happened, which is the background, I understand the worries that the opposition has, because they are purely evaluating and saying, when we had the National Youth Service in 2000, what
Mr. MADHUKU, yes. Because we are running out of time, let me pose this question. Is there anything that can be done? Just one, a most important thing to you that can be done in order for the program to be acceptable to you?
It will take time because we are polarized, and those who are introducing the National Youth Service, they're not doing it for the good values that it is. The because from our own evaluation, what has happened is that we are in a situation where there is high contestation between the opposition and the ruling party. So we suspect that the national elections may be used for the wrong reason. But to say the truth is that it is a novel program that may end up being abused.
Thank you.
So what can happen is that there is need to establish trust within the country, that this program must also involve other players that are not political.
Thank you, Mr. CLARIS MADHUKU. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but thank you so very much. That's Mr. CLARIS MADHUKU, Director of the organization Platform for Youth and Community Development. Let's take a break. Please don't go away. We will be right back. COVID is still here, so do protect yourselves. And now, tomorrow is D-Day for Zimbabwean workers as they begin a 2-day stay away of poor wages. Workers complain that their salaries are constantly eroded by inflation and want to be paid in US dollars. Harare resident Owen Liwayo says he supports the job action 100%.
The challenge that we have in Zimbabwe is that with an uncaring government, the government that does not even take concern of the citizens. I believe there have been negotiations, there have been where there have been dialogue or even talking points where the civil servants they submitted their consent to the government, they submitted their welfare. So the current government, the Second Republic, is not a welfare government. It is a capitalist government that derives satisfaction in the suffering of the people. The civil servants have been saying their concern for a very long time. They've been even petitioning the government. They've been even calling for the government to negotiate with the government. But the government has not responded favorably to the concern of the civil servants. So I'm in full support of the stairway.
So last week we saw heavy police deployment in the streets. I mean, do you think that tomorrow's event will succeed?
The success of the event will not be measured by how many civil servants are in the streets, because definitely the government will respond heavily, will deploy the security service, the police onto the streets. The success will be determined by how much the message is being put across, how much the civil servants have managed to stay away and stay at their homes and not participate in the demonstration or being in the streets, because the government will come heavily on them.
And is there enough support from the citizenry to these workers who are complaining about their poor wages?
I would like to believe so, because the welfare of the civil servants definitely affects the majority of the citizens.
Harare resident Owen Liwayo speaking with VOA reporter Godwin Mangudla. And for perspective, we are now joined by Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe spokesperson, Mr. Thembakuye Moyo. Mr. Moyo, welcome to Live Talk, The Connection.
I'm happy to be part of the talk.
Yeah, we have seen previously a government responding with violence to striking employees. And also we have seen mass stayaways flopping, failing, because many people are self-employed. Are you ready for any of the two outcomes tomorrow?
The Amalgamated Teachers Rural Union of Zimbabwe, we are very ready. If I can go back to you and say, you acknowledge that so many people are self-employed. And when we look at the classes in Zimbabwe, we have the workers, we have the peasants, then we have the elite. Those who are calling themselves self-employed today, it's because they are frustrated. They are frustrated that their occupations are not paying them enough. And the only way to survive for them is to self-employ themselves. But when we look at a country like Zimbabwe, it's a country based in agriculture, mining, and the civil servant. It means there is a shortage in civil servants. There's also a shortage in private sector. And we are seeing a mushrooming of people who think they've employed themselves.
Okay, so teachers are in tomorrow and Thursday. Who else is joining this job action?
Teachers are in. The industrial action is organized under the Public Service Association, meaning the whole spectrum of workers. We have nurses, we have other civil servants. The only challenge in Zimbabwe that we are saying is people are being oppressed to such an extent that they cannot identify themselves. That's the challenge. But holistically, all civil servants are part of the industrial action tomorrow.
And any word from the employer as of this hour?
The only word that the employer is sent is deployment of the uniform, the comrades. And that's what we expect tomorrow. The Harare streets and the Bulawayo streets will be flooded by the police officers and soldiers. But it is a naive decision when we look at it, because it's a stay away where people
I'm sorry.
And stay home.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moyo. We have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Thembakuye Moyo of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, ATUZ. And thanks also to all our other guests. And of course, you, the listener at home. Be sure to tune in again next Tuesday. I am Tsungamili Nkomo. Good night, Zimbabwe.